too late. We are glad you're here and we want to hear from you. First off, the Prince Edward County Planning Commission encourages citizens' participation in public meetings through in-person participation, written comments, and/or remote participation by calling 1-844-890-7777, access code 390313. If busy, call again, please. Additionally, citizens may view the commission meeting live in its entirety in the county's YouTube channel, the link to which is provided on the county's website. So I will call the meeting to order. And for our invocation, kind of what we've been doing, again, we've been hit by more natural disasters and tragedies with the storms in the south. And if we just take a few moments of silence to remember these families have been so tragically affected. Hurricanes in Florida, fires in California, the flooding in Carolina, and pray for those families can rebuild their lives, and pray for the people that were lost or were injured in those terrible storms. So if you just take a few moments for that. Thank you. And now, if everyone would stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any conflict of interest disclosures on the Planning Commission for the members? No. Okay, I hope everyone has had a chance to look at the last meeting minutes.
We don't have those.
Oh, we still don't have them? Oh,
No, sir, we'll get those to you next
oh,
month.
sorry.
We've
Okay,
had some staff folks out, Ms. Hart's been out.
okay,
And
okay.
we'll be getting those with this month's out to you next month.
Okay, okay.
So
Well,
they're still in
we
draft.
can approve them. We can approve them next month.
No
Okay.
action need to
Or
be taken on that.
change- Whatever we need to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'd like to open the first public hearing, and Mr. Love, if you will fill us in on the first hearing that we have.
Okay, and you want me to go over the public hearing procedures kind of as well?
Sure.
Okay. So for the sake of the public, the county has a process for handling special use permits. We'll have an application presentation by the applicant, and then we'll have, we'll call speakers after the chairman calls the public hearing open. I'll call speakers one at a time. You'll come to the podium, state your name and what district you're from, and then it's just in the order that they were received here. The first public hearing tonight is the Oak Lane Solar Farm. Oak Lane Solar Farm was applied for by CEP Solar. The purpose of this public hearing is twofold. It's to make a determination if the project is substantially in accord with the Prince Edward County Comprehensive Plan, and for the proposal to construct and operate a 5-megawatt solar energy facility on land totaling 194.8 acres on 3 parcels. Tax map numbers 115-6-4, 115-A-55, and 115-A-59, located on Patrick Henry Highway, that's US 360, near its intersection with Campbell Crossing. This parcel is zoned A1 agricultural. As part of this application, it is the property owners are Cabin Ventures LLC and Shirley and Folks Family LLC. This is a 5-megawatt site, 61 acres of which are solar panels. The rest are about 134 acres of setback buffers, wildlife corridor, and landowner use. This public hearing was duly advertised in the Farmville Herald. Adjoining property owners were sent notification letters, and I'll be glad to answer any questions the commission might have of me.
Any questions right now for commissioners? Okay. Is the applicant here would you please come up and give us a presentation?
Okay, thank you. Okay, good evening.
Yes, sir. Your name and
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Appreciate that. Members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. My name is Tyson Utt. I'm the co-founder and manager of Commonwealth Energy Partners and CEP Solar, one of the owners for the projects. We're going to hear both of these tonight. And really wanted to first just introduce us as a company. We are a Virginia-based small business with our focus on partnering with landowners who want to host solar projects at their properties. We've had the pleasure of working with Prince Edward County in the past. We look forward to continuing to work with Prince Edward County in the future. And we have with us tonight a number of individuals from our team who are just available to answer questions or concerns that may come up. So in addition to Harry Kingery, our project manager on this particular site, we also have my co-founding partner, Richard Wright, who's with us. We also have, we have Jackson Iliasek and Grace Divers, both our community engagement managers. We have Karen Cohen with us from Gentry Lock from a legal support perspective, and Jillian Steikley from the Timmons Group for engineering support as well. So as a Virginia-based company, really our purpose and our mission is to help Virginia be successful in implementing solar as a way of producing not only economic benefits, but also the environmental benefits for our Commonwealth. And we take great pride in being able to do that and deliver responsible, sited projects of high quality that will protect the environment and protect the community and provide economic benefits. So we just appreciate, again, the opportunity to continue to work with Prince Edward County. We look forward to hearing comments from the public tonight and do our best to answer questions or concerns they may have. But really, I'd like to just introduce Harry and allow him to provide more detail on the projects. So thank you.
Good evening. As Tyson mentioned, I'm a project manager with CEP, working on these two projects. So thanks for your time this evening. Thanks for everyone that's come out. Just get situated. So we're going to start kind of big picture. There's a lot of factors that go into the siting of these projects: interconnection, site characteristics, the landowner. One of the most important, though, is the county's conformity with the comprehensive plan and compliance with the zoning ordinance. So this project aligns with multiple goals stated in the comp plan that are related to land use, economics, and environmental aspects. It also aligns with many in the upcoming comp plan that you all are working on right now. And the solar ordinance is essentially, or zoning ordinances are put in place to implement the comprehensive plan. So your solar ordinance encourages alternative energy uses while limiting the negative impacts. So this use is allowed by special use permit, subject to the requirements in your ordinance and the conditions in your packet, both of which we'll be touching on a little bit this evening. I also want to touch on environmental and cultural due diligence. So we performed a variety of desktop studies related to wildlife and cultural and historical resources. There's no known threatened and endangered species on site, no known cultural resources on site based on the database review. And as part of the state level permitting process, we will work with the appropriate agencies to mitigate any issues, potential issues with this resources. So DEQ with water resources, DWR with wildlife, DHR with historical and cultural. Okay, so now we'll get into a little bit more project details. I'll kind of just run through some of these facts real quick. So as Mr. Love mentioned, this is up to 5 megawatts. It's estimated to be constructed in 2027 and operating for up to 40 years. The kind of land aspects you can see in the bottom left corner. I know it's kind of small, but the red outline is the parcel boundaries. So there's 3 different parcels. There's 195 acres total in these parcels. We are evaluating about 110 acres and estimating about 60 acres for the solar facility. So we'll look at the site plan here in a moment and touch on the interconnection and access components too. So here's our preliminary site plan. Again, the black outline is the total parcel area, 195. The blue, light blue, kind of translucent portion is what's being evaluated. This is totaling to 110 acres. And then we have a preliminary layout of panels that are the dark blue rows there. A couple of things to note here related to the area. You'll see that the portion by the road between the stream and Route 360, we removed that from the area that's being evaluated. We heard that visibility from 360 is an important aspect of these projects, so wanted to respect that. And we have the land to do it, so we made that change based on feedback. The second, related to the solar panels, this is a very conservative representation of solar panels. It will almost certainly, or it will certainly be smaller than what is represented here. We aim to take this conservative approach early on so that we can hone in on the design in future stages. A couple of points about the entrances. We've got two entrances planned. One construction entrance along Route 360. They're both located by stars. I think they're different colors. The one on Route 360 is for construction. The one along Holly Lane that goes into the eastern top right corner there, that is for non-construction purposes. So that means basically existing landowner use, and we're proposing for potential emergency use or operations. And we'll get, we've got preliminary VDOT feedback on this, and these entrances are going to be designed in accordance with VDOT requirements. The point of interconnection, we have that planned for along Route 360. That's a little, I think it's a purple dot there. And this project will connect directly to the distribution lines. So there's no substation needed, no substation needed, just some equipment on a pole to connect to the existing line that's planned for that area. The buffer, so this project is set back off the road and it is surrounded by existing woodland. So it's really well sited. There's minimal visibility. You won't be able to see it from 360. And let me just zoom in here a little bit. So this is kind of zooming in on that portion near to 360. If you see that bright green line, that's where we're proposing additional vegetative buffer. And again, there's not going to be panels in that area, so this is kind of just like a, extra measure to ensure that the entrance looks clean and you won't be able to see over that creek into the paneled area. And we've got a few visual simulations here just to kind of paint a picture. So this is where that entrance off of 360 is. That field is the open area where we are not considering for panels. This is current conditions. This is at planting, so we'll have just like jog in the road. And what's planted there will be in accordance with the solar ordinance, and then at maturity. So really, no visibility of the project from 360. Got one more picture here, just because this is a berm that's a little bit further down 360. It's about 10 feet tall, and yeah, certainly not seeing anything from that vantage point. In the interest of time, I'll just touch on a couple of points here. So construction, there's, often concern expressed regarding erosion and sediment control for these projects. It's very warranted in certain circumstances. There have been some issues in the past with other projects, so totally understand that. For these projects, we have really strong erosion and sediment requirements that go above and beyond what DEQ requires, and will mitigate any issues with them to protect our nearby waterways. And from a decommissioning standpoint, all the project materials are going to be removed from the site, and they'll be either recycled or disposed of in accordance with the appropriate regulations. And we'll have a bond in place to assure that the funds are available to do this, so it won't fall on the county or the taxpayers. And lastly, we're required to restabilize the site after decommissioning, again, to prevent erosion and sediment issues and runoff. Community outreach, we had a community meeting in December 2024. It was well attended. We had good conversations, and we've made some tweaks to the project based on that, based on those conversations. And I've got just a few more slides relating to kind of community benefits or project benefits. In accordance with the solar ordinance, we are putting native grasses and pollinators down for the ground cover. This, creates a pollinator habitat. It is a requirement by the county, and it supports local biodiversity, including pollinators. This project is eligible for the Pollinator Smart certification that's administered by DCR and DEQ. And additionally, those native grasses, deep roots, they help improve stormwater management and soil quality. We did an economic benefits analysis for this, or had someone do it for us. And that, I won't run through all the numbers, but the gist of it is that there's, beyond tax revenue, during the construction phase of these projects, there's this one-time kind of pulse of economic activity that leads to labor income and various forms of economic output. And then there is, during the operational phase, which is the bulk of the project life, there's kind of an ongoing sustained economic activity, lower than the construction phase, but it is still worthwhile, worth mentioning. And then we'll just touch on tax revenue for a moment. This is based on over the life of the project, the tax revenue will increase from about $50,000 to about $700,000. That's based on increases in real estate property tax and solar revenue share ordinance that Prince Edward has adopted, and our voluntary payments that we have planned. This is our last slide, just kind of a big picture catch-all. The top line here is that these projects benefit, or they generate affordable and emission-free electricity. And they have all these sort of downstream benefits. They lead to environmental and ecological benefits. They increase county tax revenue. They create public health benefits. So every megawatt hour of energy that's produced by solar is one that is not needed to be produced by alternative or traditional forms of energy. And the negative impacts of those are well documented. A cleaner environment means cleaner or healthier people, essentially. And our last piece here is about land banking. It's kind of a term that we use, but basically these projects will prevent more intensive forms of development. They maintain open space, they're relatively low impact, and they can be removed at the end of their life cycle. So that's all I have. Thanks for your attention, and happy to answer any questions before the public comment, if you have any.
I yield back to the chairman.
My apologies.
Mr. Pringleman, I do have a couple questions.
Sure.
How are the panels made, and where are they made?
How are they made?
What materials are in the panels itself?
Sure. So for this project, different developers have different agreements with, and plans for where they're going to source their panels. We don't have a master agreement where we have determined where the panels are going to come from. All we've determined at this stage is the energy output that's needed to produce the amount of energy we're planning. So it's common for projects to be at that stage with respect to procurement when we're this early in the process. So, I can speak about panels generally. They are about 90% of it by weight is silicone, tempered glass, and aluminum. I don't know truthfully much about like the manufacturing process, but in terms of where they are made, they're made all over the world. There's a lot that are made in China, a lot made in Vietnam. There's increasing domestic manufacturing. We actually just hit a milestone recently. I read an article a couple of weeks ago about domestic manufacturing surpassing domestic demand. So that's not saying that this project or all projects will get panels domestically. Those panels could go anywhere, they could be sold anywhere in the world, but it just sort of indicates where domestic manufacturing is trending. So, yeah, I hope that helps.
I got a question on your site plan. Is there a stream or a creek that, I was looking for a topo map, that bisects this site plan?
Let me go
I
back
mean, I'm
here.
somewhat
Yes.
familiar with the property. I think there is. That's why I was just curious.
Yes, there is a creek that bisects the project, and it flows kind of to the northwest there. And yeah, the data set here is based on the National Wetlands data set, so we've got an estimate of where it is, but ultimately we'll do a wetlands delineation and find where the creek is, where the associated wetlands are around it, and buffer from that appropriately.
And so your access road will have to go ahead and cross that creek.
Yes, that's right. And there is already a road crossing it because the landowners that access from the northeast corner there, they get down to the southern portion of the property via a road already. So.
Just to supplement that, Richard Wright, CEP, thank you very much. Great to be here with y'all. I just wanted to supplement his answer. Stream and creek crossings like this are subsequently handled for study and design through the Army Corps and standard nationwide permits, and both permitted, inspected, built and inspected to comply with their requirements like any crossing of this type would be.
You don't know what your average buffer area would be on either side of the stream, do you?
Harry, I think we've got that setback noted here.
50 feet.
Which is, the setback for the buildable area is voluntary, 50 feet. The stream crossing there would just be designed with normal.
No, I understand that. I'm just talking about your setback. Yes, I was curious.
Thank you.
And any other questions from the board?
Do you have your contractors, do you put them out to bid, or you have a certain group that you deal with on your other sites?
Yep, so the way our business model is designed is that we take the project through a certain development stage, notice to proceed, and we get all of the permits and associated documentation, the grid studies done. And then at this point, we would sell the project to another buyer who would then manage the EPC process or the construction process. So we can't speak to the EPC that would be working on this project specifically, but there are a slew of conditions in here that they need to abide by, and that's where we see our value add, is that we, anything that we agree to in this room or in the board or in the application, the EPC needs to abide by. So, and like I mentioned earlier, there are requirements in excess of what DEQ requires with respect to erosion and sediment control.
Okay, all right, I understand what you're saying, that you're technically gonna sell this project if you get it approved to a contractor of solar.
Yeah, or a potential project owner who then would manage the construction process and determine the EPC, essentially.
And the other question I think I've got is the active time of this solar production. What are you forecasting or thinking you're wanting to do?
For the lifetime of the project?
Lifetime, yeah.
Yeah, we have it, it's planned for up to 40 years at this point. Our land agreement is for that long. So that's the kind of agreed upon in Virginia, at least, life cycle for a project.
A year to build?
Construction in 2027.
How long?
It should be 8 to 12 months. That might be a kind of conservative estimate because it's not, it's not a huge project.
And the agreement to tie this into a grid, you're working on that now?
Yeah, so we've submitted a interconnection application with Dominion. It's in study right now. So that process is underway.
I apologize, one question. Are you doing any other active permits right now? You work on any in the state?
In terms of local permits?
Within
or-
the state, just within the state.
Oh, yeah. So we're based in Richmond. We only develop projects in Virginia. So all of our projects that are active are sort of fit in that category. So it also means that we've got a long-term interest in this market, maintaining our relationship with counties. And yeah, so we've got 3 approved projects in Prince Edward, 2 up for consideration tonight, and we have 3 or 4 other projects that have been approved and a handful more that are going through we're kind of preparing for a local land use application submittal. So there are more that are kind of in the earlier stages, but in short, yes, we have other projects that are in the process.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Yes, let's go.
I'd like to ask a couple questions about the project as it relates to the comprehensive plan. So our first order of business here is to determine whether or not this project is in substantial accord with the comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan says nothing about solar. So can you elaborate? You had a slide on comprehensive plan toward the start. Can you elaborate on how this does have substantial accord?
Yeah,
When the
sure.
comprehensive plan is silent on the subject?
Yeah, well, so the comprehensive plan that's in place right now, as I'm sure you know, is from 2014, so does not mention anything on solar. There's kind of like the legal analysis, which is that the zoning ordinance implements the comprehensive plan. So, and because you have a solar zoning ordinance that encourages these facilities, you can kind of back into the comprehensive plan, or it being generally supported in the county. But in terms of specifics in the comp plan, we have a write-up in our narrative, and this is kind of a shorthand version, but the comp plan seeks to, in A1, preserve open space, discourage high-density development. The project meets those 2 criteria from an economic perspective, diversify the economic base in Prince Edward, and then protection of environmental resources is up there too. So that's like sort of high-level take on that.
You mentioned the write-up, which I read, and it goes, the comprehensive plan part goes on for a few pages, and this leads me to my second question. Just before the conclusion, and I'm reading verbatim from it, talks about any topsoil that's removed will be stored on site, and then verbatim, additionally, removing the land from agricultural production for 4 decades, it's back to the 40 years, will reduce dust emissions and pesticide use, and it will allow the soil to rest within that period. Can you elaborate on what CEP is driving at there? Because I'm interpreting that to mean that this your view is that this is a better use of the land than agricultural use. Am I interpreting this correctly?
I wouldn't say better. What we're trying to say is that it's an appropriate use of the land, given that it's an agriculturally zoned property. So this conversation is really driven by what the land is currently used for. For this project, it's partially timberland and partially wooded. So it's the one portion has already been timbered, the other portion is wooded, and by the pine timberland, when it's monoculture pine, tends to have kind of poor soil. So when we design a project and put it in there, we have to maintain ground cover in order to be in compliance with our land disturbance permits. And in order to do that, we have to improve the soil to a certain level to maintain that ground cover. So what we're trying to say is that given the current use of the land, we will need to bring the soil up to a level of quality that the ground cover will be able to thrive enough to meet those standards. So that's, I hope that gets at what your question was pointing at. Thank you.
I got one real quick. You mentioned, referred to pollinators. Where's your prescription for that?
For what?
For habitat for pollinators, for bees and stuff like that. Are you going to do ground cover that encourages that, or what's your prescription for that?
Yeah. So in our landscaping plan, we list out, there's actually a landscaping memorandum that we submitted with our application. It lists out a few different forms of ground cover, and there's two kind of categories. There's underneath the panels, and that is sort of low growing. It's not always native grass, but it is pollinator friendly, and low growing is important under the panels because you don't want it to grow too high. So that's one category. The other category is the native pollinator species, and that's sort of between, here, let me just go to a site plan. So inside the fenced area, not all of that area is underneath the panel. So we'll have a different form or different mixture, seed mixture or mixture of species between the panels and the fence where there is that open area. And that's the native pollinator mix, essentially.
So that's going to go ahead, and you won't have a monthly or twice a year maintenance plan as far as mowing and stuff like that. You're going to go ahead and handle it through ground cover pollinators.
Yes, the maintenance plan is, we don't want to mow more than we need to. So I think with the pollinator species outside of the paneled area, we want to leave those alone as much as possible. And anything in the paneled area is already low growing, and we want to keep that low through regular maintenance. I think it's seasonal mowing, so that it doesn't get too close to the panels.
When you take the topsoil off and grade the ground, dig your ditches, put the cables in, put the post up, do you put the topsoil back under these panels, or do you use it for the berms around the outside and then fertilize and seed the soil underneath?
So I think the practices are evolving in the industry, and in the past, there have been projects that they grade, they mix all the topsoil with the subsoil, with the clay. They basically have ruined the topsoil, and they cut and fill with no respect for the topsoil. That is increasingly not the way that it's done, because as many of us know at this point, it's very hard to grow ground cover and be in compliance with DEQ's stabilization rules if you don't have good topsoil. So maintaining the topsoil, doing the grading, and it's also important to recognize that this is only an issue where we're grading. So we're not grading the whole site. So best practices are now pointing towards just temporarily removing the topsoil, redistributing it so that we can get a good ground cover and stabilize the site, prevent erosion issues, be in compliance with DEQ, all that good stuff.
Anything else from the board?
The way this water flows, what major waterway does it flow into? Do you know?
Yeah, I can't speak to the sort of smaller watersheds that are kind of along the way. It flows northwest, and, you know, the whole county is in the Appomattox watershed, so everything ultimately ends up, everything that's done in this county ends up in Appomattox. And again, you know, that is understandable that you want to know that, and I just want to emphasize again, the scale of this project and the conditions we have applied to it are really going to mitigate any of those problems with erosion.
I was just going to, if I may, or just to add to Harry's comment there also about how one of the specific conditions that's listed for the project is that it caps the amount of disturbance to 50% of the site. And the intent there is to make sure that we're able to do the soil stabilization before any additional disturbance occurs on the remainder of the project. So that's one of the conditions that the county's put in place that we've agreed to as a part of the application package. So that's kind of above and beyond the prior projects that we've approved, where we've got some of these additional thresholds that have been met. For example, since we first did the project in 2021, the DEQ has come out with their new stormwater handbook. So I think that's part of what Harry's been referencing is those practices that have been put in place, even in just the last couple of years, that are going to be applied to this project so that it's meeting those latest standards. And again, as a small site at 5 megawatts, we're you know, ultimately disturbing about a third of the property. It provides us the opportunity to do that type of limited disturbance at any one given time. So I just wanted to make sure that we were highlighting that part of it as well.
Does that answer all the questions from the board? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
At this time, before we open the public hearing, I just want to go over the guidelines for the public hearing. Naturally, we have some people that have signed up to speak, so we'll have those people come up to speak for or against the project. We're limiting everybody to 3 minutes just because of the number of people that would like to speak. So you'll come up first, state your name and where you live within the county, and I'll just go in order the names I was given here, and then I'll ask anybody from the audience that maybe did not sign up if they wish to speak for or against. So with that in mind, I will open the public hearing. Again, this public hearing is for the Oak Lane Solar Project. Tabitha's on.
So I do have to say that I don't currently live in the county. My father-in-law is a member of the county, so do you want me to wait to the end of public speaking, or are you okay with me going now?
We're okay with you going now.
Okay,
Yes.
just, that's your rules, so just
Yeah.
wanted to
No.
make sure.
Thank you for letting us know.
You're welcome. So Tabitha Zown, I live in Powhatan. My father-in-law is in Lee District in Meharan. I feel like I've had a crash course in Prince Edward in the last couple weeks. Was at the Board of Supervisor meeting last week because he was the largest adjoining landowner of that parcel. Do want to say that I hope that that project has set precedents with this planning commission, with projects moving forward. This is not just agricultural land, this is agricultural conservation land. And that is in your own paperwork for your proposed comprehensive plan that is already in place, and your timer's not running. Also, just don't want to cut everybody else short, because I could talk for hours.
I'm sorry, we are running it from over there, okay?
Okay, so it's not in your plan that's currently, or your drafted plan. Conservation land, we are huge conservationists. We are members of National Wild Turkey Federation. We're members of Ducks Unlimited. Conservation is not major facility projects where you are disturbing Mountain Creek that runs into Bush River that runs into the Chesapeake watershed. And I feel like, I'm sorry, your project manager, I know more than your project manager does, that has owned to his own minute said that they sell a lot of their projects off to other people too. So is that safe in what your county wants to hear for your conservation land that is beautiful? This county is amazing. We've had property, 400 acres, and we have another 100 acres on Sandy River Reservoir that my kids have grown up. I mean, if y'all were here last week, you heard my 19-year-old speak, and he's passionate about the property in this county. And we hope that you preserve it. I understand that the county makes money off of this. There's got to be other ways, and we're small business owners, and there's ways to bring small businesses into this county and have committees that help build your county and help build that revenue. And if you want some ideas, Powhatan's been great with their business members and just being an avid member. Farmville has a membership, but the whole Prince Edward County, it would be nice to include everybody and just have those plans in place to help bring revenue. But again, conservation land belongs with the trees and not solar facilities and panels that are a risk to
I am
harming.
sorry, I do have to call you time. If you can just wrap up there.
Yeah, thank
But I
you.
do want to answer one of the comments. Whether the project is sold or not, the same guidelines we put under any project go forward with that, with the new owner of the project.
Understandable, but if you haven't rated what their company is worth, if you look at the DEQ and the company that was here last week in front of the Board of Supervisors, they have hundreds of $1,000s in fines. And so if you don't have any control on that and they bring in poor construction sites, that's still going to harm our county.
And I appreciate what you're saying, but we have to focus just on this project here.
Yeah.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Brian Zahn, we are going to run a timer up here for everybody's knowledge because we're having trouble with the timer
She
here.
basically said everything. Could we get the map back up?
Now, you do live in the county, sir, correct?
Lee District, Brian Zane.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. My big dog fight was the Falkland Road one, but I am a citizen and I care about our community in general. I'm not gonna go by one of the sakes, so she's cleared it all, and yes, that creek goes, Mountain Creek goes to the Bush River, to the Appomattox, and it goes to a whole lot of situation, types of soil that are protected by the Conservation Acts, okay? And I want to focus and say what they said, these buffers are 50 feet. Take in mind what really 50 feet is. It's not very far, and that's their biggest buffer. You know, some of it's 25 feet. And they're going to do such a land disturbance because they're going to flatten it to put the panels in. They don't roll these panels hill over hill. All that's very hilly. And I know we're getting to the other project, which is even worse. But I just want to put my effort that if they're going to set it back, it does work for them, that they need to make these setbacks more. And I have driven those roads back and forth for 25 plus years. And it's going to take some major trees and shrubbery and bushes to keep it being seen going east or west. And like she said, there's other ways of revenue this county can look into other than selling out our productive forestry land, which is horrible. I mean, this is all going to be regenerated pine forest that's going to be probably in 40 years be harvested twice. That's a fair amount of revenue. And that land doesn't get disturbed nowhere near as much is what they're planning to do if they get away and do this, okay? So they're going to keep it short for somebody else, and y'all have a good day, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Wendy Kirk Chumley?
Keep the map up,
Keep the map up, please.
because there's a pond up there that's mine. Hi, I'm Wendy Kirk Chumley. I live in Lee District. I live on Campbell Crossing Road. the back of my property is going to back up to this, okay? I'm a disabled veteran, I have a pacemaker and defibrillator. I don't want all this mess around me, okay? This pond up here, I believe, is my pond. It's a half-acre pond. In the last 2 years, it's gone down to less than a half acre. I don't know why, but, you know, I guess things happen. The road that you were talking about, I believe it's a four-wheeler road, Mr. Reeves? Is it, because it used to have a hunting club, right? Is this the property you're talking about? Yeah. So the road is a four-wheeler road. Solar panels harbor a cocktail of toxic chemicals, including cadmium compounds, silicone, tetrachloride, and lead and zinc. The solar infrastructure that was put into the ground to support the panels, the concrete, the galvanized metal, these things sit on, they leach zinc into the ground. What are the long-term effects on solar quality? Focusing on the short-term financial benefits without considering the long-term consequences of putting industrial solar farms on agricultural land is irresponsible. Farmland lost is farmland lost forever. Solar panels transform the land, or ag land, into industrialized landscapes of metal and glass surrounded by security fences. These sprawling arrays can alter everything from sun exposure to surface temperatures, which can have vast and unexpected impacts on plants and animals and even alter the area's environment. Dark surfaces of solar panels absorb most of the light and heat that reaches them. However, only about 15% of incoming energy is converted to electricity. The rest is returned to the environment as heat. Because the panels are so much darker than the surrounding vegetation, large areas of solar fields will absorb and emit heat at higher rates, which can have unknown consequences on the surrounding environment. According to a U.S. Geological Survey, some solar panels can incinerate insects and burn the feathers of birds that fly through them. A 5-megawatt farm requires 25 acres or more to be fully productive. Solar farms disrupt local wildlife habitat and drastically alter ecosystems. Solar waste panels average 20 to 25 years, and these contracts are for 40. So in 20, 25 years, these panels, this 197 acre is going to have to be replaced. I have a question. In December of 18th, I met with Oak Farm at the Bingo Hall in Mehiran. It was then, I think, 69 acres or something like that, and in 3 months, it's jumped from that amount to 197. And they lost their other project manager. That shows what? In 3 months, you lose a project manager. What's going to happen in the next 3 months? And as far as the Campbell Crossing Road, it's cracked. I mean, and the added traffic on it, it needs to be addressed as well.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Patrick Murphy?
Patrick Murphy, Prospect District. Today, I'm representing Prince Edward County Farm Bureau and 341 producer members, with the vast majority through 2 meetings on solar that we have canvassed our crowd to find out whether they are for or against solar projects within our county. For starters, how many of you have driven through the project today? Okay. Good. Glad to see that. I drove through last Monday evening. I came up with 20 primary residents, fairly close to the project. What about the homeowner's values? With an industrial-sized solar site behind them, I'm sure their value of their property will diminish, and furthermore, make it much harder for them to sell their properties. Second of all, 22% efficiency is about the average for a solar panel. 22%. So if you have to drive to work 4 days a week with that kind of efficiency rating of your vehicle,
that means you're walking to work 3 days a week. That's not real good. That's not good at all. Furthermore, just like technology, green energy is evolving very quickly. Many of us feel that within the next 6 to 8 years, solar will become a trend of the past, much like the 8-track tape. It was great at the time, and has since went by the wayside 4 different times. Furthermore, undetermined origin of construction of the panels. Very alarming to all of us who are practitioners of science, who understand that leaching takes place, understand that products break down over time. What about the efficiency of the panels? Will they actually be viable for 30 years, 25 years, something like that? Which leads us to believe a lot of these panels may be made in China, may be made in Vietnam. What about all the recent studies about children's toys made in China, lead-based paints? Do you want that in your environment? I don't think the people of these neighborhoods want that in their environment. I'm encouraging you to vote no on this project. We at Farm Bureau encourage people to use solar to power their homesteads and small-scale projects. This is a large-scale industrial project, 61 acres in panels, 194 acres locked up. That is 3 times, or at least twice over, what you'll have in panels. Really uncalled for. Please vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren Reeves.
Good evening. My name's Darren Reeves, and my wife's name is Susan with the Lee District, and we are owners of 2 of these 3 parcels. So we own the largest portion of it. I grew up in Pocosa in Virginia. We've gone hunting throughout my life in Virginia with my dad and my grandfather since I was 8 years old. I got my degree in biology from Randolph-Macon College, where I met my wife, who grew up in Culpeper. She also went to Randolph-Macon. We parted ways for a little while, but we got back together. We now have a blended family of 6 kids, and we just had our first grandchild. Thank you. After college, Randolph-Macon, I went and got my MBA from Averett out there in Danville. And it's now Averett University. Susan got her master's in education from the University of Richmond. I tell you all that to let you know we are true Virginians, and we know how to do our homework. After college, I went to work for a company in Richmond, and 12 years later, I started my own company. So I've had it ever since. Being a biologist, I love the outdoors and know how to take care of the environment. I've been continuously looking for a plot of land in Virginia to buy, and we found these 2 about 15 years ago, and we bought them. And we use it for hunting, we use it for pleasure, we use it for our families, for our friends, and it's our little piece of heaven. So we love this county, we love the people in it. So, like I said, 15 years ago we bought it, and it's 162 acres of what we're talking about. I think CE is asking you to take about 35 of it, once it's said and done. After college, Susan became a teacher in the rural Richmond area, eventually becoming an assistant principal of a small Christian school. We've taken stewardship of this property very seriously for the last 15 years and frequently have friends and family over. Being business owners and entrepreneurs, when we got a call from CEP Solar, we decided to do our homework once again. And we did. Just like everything else, the pros and cons were quickly discovered, as we've said here at this meeting, and you can look at websites and anything else, so we're not going to repeat those. But being a biologist, we did our homework. I heavily researched the effects of the small solar farm on a property and the animals. We visited one of the solar complexes that had already been built, and it was actually very well built and actually very quiet. I actually expected it to be loud. We worked with CEP for quite some time now, and we've been to their office. They've been out to our property. 2 of them have ridden 4-wheelers for about 2 hours apiece. So they know the property very well. And they've worked with us to figure out how we can make this project work so that we can continue using it as we have, and for our friends, for our family, and for the lifetime. This is really, it's cut over. There's no trees there, there's no forest there. This property's not leaving our family, whether this comes up or not. So we're doing this for our grandkids. So we'd like to be able to see, and actually take this, the field and be able to bring our kids and our grandkids and local kids and the people of Meharry to come to see how you can have progress and continue the land conservation at the same time. So the bottom line is, after our thorough research, our conclusion is that we believe it's the best interest of all stakeholders involved that this project be approved. We respectfully ask that your recommendation, that you recommend approval of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Allen Folks?
Hello, I'm represent Shirley and Folks Family LLC. My family's been here since the 1700s. And we're from Burkeville, but I grew up here. And basically, we would not do something, our parents taught us we would not do something that was not right for the community. We had 115 acres at High Bridge that we sold, and we had options to sell it to private landowners. We didn't want that. We sold it to the state, well, to the Civil War Trust that went to the state. And has historical significance value there, at one of the forts there. If you see the fort that everybody sees now, go across track, that's where our plan was. Goes down to the river. So as far as conservationists, yes, we agree with that. But also needs to be a balance. There needs to be diversified economy here. And again, we would do something only if it benefits the communities. And that is a case in point right there. Grew up here. We still have the family home in Burkeville. We have significant family ties here in this county. And CEP is a local company. And they've had other track records they've done with other citizens y'all know in this area. They had a good track record. Not somebody who's out of the town. That's it. I mean, really, and then as far as, we have the people that, what about landowners' rights? But there also should be a balance with the community, and we think this is the best route for this. And I ask for your vote for yes on this project.
Thank you, sir. Natalie Folks? Is it Natalie?
Oh, okay. I'm signed up. Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. Do I need to?
Please, if you would.
Okay. I thought it was just a sign-in sheet, but that's okay.
We value your input.
No, that's fine. As I said, my name is Natalie Folks. We might be related. Aren't you a folk? You're folks, huh? I'm folks. Okay, all right. Couple of questions. I live in Green Bay on Cheatham Road, so I don't know if that's Lee County. It's my neighbor. Yeah. And I noticed the sign right off of 360 going down that way. Where is this site at here? Because I noticed in the.
Ma'am, are you speaking about the Green Bay site? Is that what you wanted to sign up for?
Well, and that's what my question is. I see you have two
Yes,
here.
yes.
So is this is the first one? This is
the
not the
first
Green
one.
Bay
So
one?
if you want to speak to the Green Bay one, that'll be our next public
Okay,
hearing.
that's. Well, yeah, where's this one at? Okay, Mill Creek. All right, yeah, okay, I can come back.
Okay. What's that? And we would like to make sure you speak on the other one. So I'm going to put your name over there, okay? Thank you. Is there anybody on the phone? Okay. Would the individual on the phone like to introduce themselves? No, you're okay. Thank you. Okay, in the meantime, is anybody in the audience that wishes to speak for or against the Oak Lane Solar Farm, that, project that not? If you could come up to the podium, sir? Oh, they're on? Oh,
Yeah, it's turned up.
it is turned up, yeah. Okay. Okay, sir.
May the map be turned back on.
Yes. Okay, could you identify yourself, sir, please?
Yes, sir. My name's Brian Steffen. My wife and I live on the property, 6038 Patrick Henry Highway, just adjacent to the Mountain Creek, which is just adjacent right across from the Mr. Folks' property.
Okay, thank you.
My wife and I are worried about several things. One is, it's been spoken of, the property value, how the solar farm will affect that. We're worried about the impact to our little livestock that we have on our property. And also erosion. Obviously, all the trees have to be removed so there's no obstruction of the sun to the solar panels. The solar panels have to have a firm foundation to withstand the environment and the wind in that area and any area. And we're concerned about sediment erosion, or what will take place there. My understanding is that current solar panels are made with cadmium, and we're worried about environmental impact, storms. How strong are the panels? Will they be damaged, and will cadmium be released into the ground? And I had not heard anything about the topsoil being moved, and it's very hilly there, and I suspect there's going to be a lot of cut and fill to take place to have this. And I'm also curious why you have almost 200 acres being applied for rezoning when only 60-some are being utilized at this time. What's going to happen in the future? And will, in 25 years or so, will this just become a equivalent to a solar junkyard rather than a vehicle junkyard? And I don't know what their plans are. What if the economic situation changes suddenly and it's no longer viable? What happens then? And not to be an alarmist, I do want to say one thing. I don't have any studies or anything like that from any engineers or scientists to present to you, and I'm sure the company that's applying for this does. But it just brings to mind, I'm sure that there were a lot of scientists, a lot of engineers, a lot of people with degrees who made presentations to the people around Harrisburg before 3 Mile Island was put up. And we know what happened at 3 Mile Island. Just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that wish? Yes, sir.
I actually have comments on the next project, but I wanted to mention something on this one while I was up here. My name is David
Can you
Jennings.
state your name,
David
please?
Jennings, Lee District.
Okay.
Want to mention the property in the north, the northern field right there. That was property that was owned by my grandfather, and he left it to a man who's owned it for about 30 years. He's farmed it. I'm not necessarily here speaking on his behalf. I'm just speaking related to the situation there. He's farmed it for 30 years. He's cherished that piece of property. I don't think he's intended to do anything else with it. He's going to end up leaving it to the next generation. Piece of property that he's cherished forever now will be permanently altered in terms of what it overlooks for the future indefinitely. Just a piece of property that, as an individual property owner, has enjoyed, he's cared for it. Now the neighboring property is going to basically, I guess you could say, in some ways, ruin the aesthetics of his entire property permanently. That's about all I want to say on that.
Thank you. Is anybody still on the phone or no? They're still there. Just wanted to ask, the board's asking the individual on the phone if you wish to speak regarding the special use permit. Can I interrupt you 1 second? If you could just state your name and where you live within the county?
My name is Claudio Russo, and my property is directly across the street. It's an undeveloped lot right across from the project. It's in Maharon.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead then.
Yeah, it's just a question regarding process, so I understand that they're moving forward. There's a vote. When does that occur? How long is the process before we find out whether or not this is a yea or nay?
Let me explain it to you. So the Planning Commission, upon the completion of the public hearing, will discuss whether or not we recommend it be moved forward as a project to the County Board of Supervisors, whether we table it or whether we turn it down. There still is an opportunity for the applicant to go to the County Board of Supervisors, but our job is to vet projects here before they go in front of the County Board of Supervisors. So if it was voted positive here, it would come up at a future County Board of Supervisors meeting. The intent would be the following meeting, but again, it depends on their agenda and how full it is. If we turn it down, the applicant does have the opportunity to appeal through the,
They can go to the
they can go to the board. Yeah, they can go to the board, but right now, our job is really to vet any project like this, any special use permit, as the County Planning Commission here. But we will vote tonight.
Are you voting tonight?
We will vote tonight whether we approve it, table it, or turn it down.
If it's not tabled, it'll come to the
Okay.
Board of Supervisors April 8th.
Does that answer your questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Just one more time, anybody else within the room wish to speak for or against? And that was the only call on the line? Okay, thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing, and this gives the board a chance here to discuss what we feel about the project.
Want to give CEP a chance to?
From CEP, there were a couple questions, if you could maybe allude to those. I know there were some questions about the panels, where they're made, the life of the panels. I had a couple written down here. If you could explain those.
Yes. Not sure if I have a time limit or what. If I do, I'll try to move quickly. I was taking some notes. So this might be sort of a scatter shot or feel like a scatter shot, but relating to conservation, the comprehensive plan, the draft comprehensive plan explicitly promotes responsible development of solar facilities or alternative energy facilities, and through the zoning ordinance that is planned for agricultural. And I just want to delineate here between agricultural conservation, agriculturally zoned properties, and a conservation easement. You can't touch a conservation easement. In an agriculturally zoned property, the property owner can do whatever they want, whenever they want with the trees. They can cut them down. There are no limitations. So if you are discussing agricultural conservation properties as if they are a conservation, or in a conservation easement, it's I think it's conflating two concepts. And it was mentioned that trees can be cut down twice in 40 years in agricultural conservation land. So the idea that, but we're planning to put solar panels in there once and not touch it for 40 years. So I'm just trying to draw a distinction here between agricultural conservation and a conservation easement. And we care about protecting the environment. That's why we're in this business. Let's see, there's a lot of sort of subjective statements about aesthetics, rural character. I'm not here to push back on those. Everyone has an opinion, and they're entitled to that. With respect to property values, we submitted a property value analysis with our application that uses industry standard best practices for evaluating the sale of homes near solar projects. And when I say near solar projects, I mean literally right next to a solar project that can see it. And the results of this study using these methods are that there's not a statistically significant difference in homes that were sold near a solar facility and homes that comps in the area at the same time. So, that's what our study says. It's using the best practices available. it's done in the way that you would hope that a study is done. Let's see, 22% efficiency. I really enjoy when this comes up. So 20 to 25% efficiency on solar panels, you know, it's sounds like a low number until you put it into context. Gas-powered cars are about 30% efficient. So if you're driving to work 4 days a week, yeah, I don't know. You can only talk about efficiency if you also talk about the economics that are associated with it. So we're okay driving gas-powered cars at 30% efficiency, meaning that 30% of the energy in the gasoline translates to motion. We're okay with that because it is generally affordable. And at 25% efficiency, solar panels deliver energy at among the lowest costs of new generation. So, you know, that's with 20 to 25% efficiency. So they're only getting more efficient, and it's hard to talk about efficiency without also talking about the economics behind it. So let's see. There was conversation about, or statements about different forms of energy, and solar being sort of a short-term solution. You know, I don't know what's going to come in 6 to 8 years. I don't know that there's a bunch of new technology that's going to be put on the market, certainly not nuclear or small modular reactors. We heard about 3 Mile Island. Solar is a clean, affordable, near-term solution to meet our quick-growing energy needs. So that's kind of the value proposition there. Related to our solar panels, yes, we don't have the model selected at this point, but there are conditions that dictate the parameters of what we can use. We are required to use Tier 1 solar panels, which is a tier that has to do with build quality and performance. And those panels are required to pass what's called a toxic characteristic leaching procedure test, TCLP test. And by passing this test, it means that they are deemed non-hazardous waste by the EPA. So yes, there are elements in solar panels that if they were somehow extracted and injected into the environment would not be good for the environment. But that's not going to happen because these panels operate quietly and safely in a field until they're removed at the end of their life. And on the topic of decommissioning, I mentioned this earlier, we have a bond in place. So the money is there. The process, we submitted a draft decommissioning plan. That will be finalized with the final procedure and the final estimates based on the final project design. So there are safeguards in place to prevent this from becoming a solar junkyard. And if the facility is not operating for, I believe it's 6 months, then the county's going to come and they're going to cash in our bond and start the decommissioning process. So it can't just sit there not operating and not being maintained for an indefinite amount of time. I think that's all I've got. I don't know if you got anything else, or we can.
About the panels, there was one question that came from the audience about life of the panels are 25 years and it's a 40-year project. Can you just discuss briefly the panels and what would happen? Or
Sure.
are they
So,
25 years?
Yeah, the warranty on most panels tends to be about 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a conservative estimate for how long they're going to last. I mean, our cars usually last longer than their warranty, right? So Department of Energy estimates that panels can last 30 to 35 years. The bottom line is that these projects are planned so that they can be repowered if they need to be, if it makes financial sense at some point during the project life cycle. So it's kind of like replacing a roof on the house. You know, you have certain components that have lifespans, and you expect the whole you know, the whole picture to last for longer than maybe some of the components last. So yeah, it's kind of built into the modeling, and it is accounted for.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just, Thank you. I did just want to confirm a couple data points that may be confusing, and hopefully not, it could be cleared up. It is accurate that all three parcels combined are about 190 acres. The reason we have to reference that is because, just from an ordinance standpoint, those are the properties that are being considered to be rezoned. That doesn't mean that we are not going to use all 100 or 191 acres for the project, just to clarify. Ultimately, the paneled area should occupy about 60 acres, like Harry said. So we legally have to do this for zoning, and then that area will be shrunk based on the final design. Just to confirm that, so, yeah. And then also want to mention just some characteristics of the project that, I know this map is kind of, there's a lot of detail here that's maybe hard to see. It's all in the packet, but the design contemplates all the requirements in the ordinance for setbacks. So the distance from the property line, that the equipment would be set back from that line, within which there is a vegetative buffer to protect view shed. So you'll see that highlighted here in darker green, where there's existing vegetation that would remain. So we don't want to cut down vegetation that doesn't have to be cut down, to be clear. So where we can leave existing vegetation to protect view shed and still comply with the buffer ordinance that, as written, that will stay. As Harry highlighted earlier in the presentation, the lighter green along 360 is where there's not currently existing vegetation that would meet the ordinance requirements. That would be planted by the project at construction and meet those requirements of the ordinance to protect the view shed. So properties surrounding this particular area would be protected. The view shed would be mitigated by that. I also wanted to mention that I've built about over 50 of these types of projects with the previous company. And there is no reason to grade where we don't have to grade. So part of what we do in our diligence is to limit the area, the buildable area, to where there's minimal topo. Generally speaking, there's flatter land here and here. So, and the equipment, the racking that goes in is really what's the main component that's determined how to comply with the topo that's there. So the racking can roll with the topo. We do not want to cut and fill. We want to use the existing topography, which limits the disturbance to foundation areas for inverters, which are very small. The racking for the panels is a driven pile into the ground. So there's no concrete. There's usually no concrete needed unless you hit a rock. And then a lot of technology now, a lot of projects now use above ground cable trays, so it limits the trenching that needs to be used to bury cables. And so I just want to mention that ideally, and this is a big emphasis for us, we do not want to disturb, we do not want cut and fill. The majority of the disturbance on these sites typically comes from stormwater basins, which are intended to protect, they actually protect erosion. So ironically, but that's the majority of the disturbance of actually digging and grading. So thank you.
Yeah, great points. And if I may only add one more clarification on the fact that as we've been looking at the site plan, if we could go to the next one because it's the zoom in and it might just help. Save the transition.
Up is down and down is up.
Doing both of them.
Okay, well, you do have the information in your packet. So what I want to just point out again from a contextual perspective is looking at the homes in the area, the fact that those have the county ordinance requirement is 75 feet. So in compliance with an ordinance, panels could be as close as 75 feet to a home. Look at the difference between that on this map and where panels are located. So we're able to exceed the county's siding standards and criteria specified in the ordinance, to the points you raised, Richard. And so just wanting to highlight that. The same is true when you look at this green that's showing, that's the potential wetland area that we would be delineating the stream itself, in the blue there, when we talk about 50 feet, it's going to be a much larger buffer than that, right? Sort of as depicted here. So I think that Richard was making a good point about how there's a certain plan we have to put together that demonstrates the compliance with the ordinance criteria. But then from there, it's only further setbacks. So just wanted to emphasize that from a, hopefully, a perspective that explains how this project is going to exceed those requirements.
Thank you for the follow-up.
Sure.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's it from us. Just
Okay.
here, if you have questions or if you want to go into your discussion, I can take a seat.
Thank you. Thank you. From the board, go ahead.
I have two.
Okay.
Where is your home, Cheryl? Don't keep pushing it, button. Oh, all right. I'm sorry. I just want to see where this gentleman's house is, where he lives.
We own this parcel here.
Yes.
And this is actually a giant rectangle. We have our cabin right here.
Okay.
That's where you,
So,
what's
again,
where you,
this was a logging road that came up here. This is actually a food plot. This is a giant food plot. We've got it built up here. So this is where our house is right here.
Right there,
oh, I
It's
see.
just at that corner there.
right there in the
Yeah.
corner.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can't see
Yeah,
anything back up the top of the hill.
we got it here.
Thank you. Number two, you made the comment if we had to pull the bond to clean this up, the county has got to clean it up. We take possession of the bond, we have to go do the work of cleaning this thing up.
If they walk
If
away
it's
from
If
it.
they walk away, yes.
If they,
They walk away.
if they abandon it and it doesn't make power.
The bond sits there for that reason.
And that bond is renewed every 5 years. It's not a bond, it's set.
What is the amount of the bond? Is it per
That-
acre? How's it set?
It's calculated by an engineer that looks at the cost to pull material, cycling value of material, net that out. And it's updated every 5 years because costs go up.
Yeah,
So
so,
they'll have to increase that bond. It's just like if a subdivision puts in a state standard road, they post a bond, if they go belly up, the county can get and go pull the bond and complete the road work.
So the bond amount has not been set yet for this.
It will not be set until the project, everything is put in.
But it would be approved, negotiated and approved by, come from an engineer, approved by the county administrator.
And a third party.
And a third-party engineer. We have a third-party engineer check any calculations on ENS, and we would on the decommissioning. And any of our costs on, whether it be legal or engineering, we can recapture that, doesn't cost taxpayer. We can charge the applicant for that.
and on any special use permit like this, we do have, the solar, we do have a decommissioning area in there that requires a decommissioning at the end of the project. Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you again. Okay. So again, we're looking at the Oak Lane, make sure everybody knows, we're looking at the Oak Lane project right now. So, from what's said, it's basically 195 acres denoted here, and the project will actually encompass about 60 acres.
I have one minor, I hope minor point of clarification. This is an SUP request, special use permit request. The applicant and some others have mentioned a rezoning. This is not a
No,
rezoning.
no, it's not a
That's correct.
rezoning, no, this is strictly a special use permit.
Under the
Yeah,
current
Under
zoning.
the current zoning, yes.
Okay. I have a couple other comments, but I'll wait
Yeah,
for
sure.
others to speak up.
Any other comments, questions from the board? Okay. Mr. Weiss, go ahead.
Sure. I'll go back to the whole issue of our first step
Yeah.
here, which is substantial accord with the comprehensive plan.
Correct.
And this, I think the applicant's project is, well presented, it's clear what's being presented. My issue isn't that. My issue is our comprehensive plan says, current comprehensive plan, not the one that's being drafted,
Right.
says nothing about
Solar.
Solar.
Yes, exactly.
And we have a statute that's requiring us to find is there's substantial accord or not with the comprehensive plan. It's a state statute, it's not a local code requirement, it's a state requirement. And I know I've had, myself, I'm guilty of this, strained reasoning in previous solar applications, trying to find substantial accord. And I think the applicant's own write-up actually made me rethink my own reasoning on this when I've tried to find substantial accord before. I just don't see how we find substantial accord under the current comprehensive plan. There's nothing in it about solar. We can look at bits and pieces and see is it maintaining open space or not and things like that. But, this is zoned agricultural. The comprehensive plan is clear in encouraging such uses. The applicant went so far as to suggest that maybe this is a good substitute, if not a better use than agricultural, because dust, pesticide use, things of this nature. But I feel like, unfortunately, the timing is such that until the new or revised comprehensive plan is in place, and, public has an opportunity to comment on that and inform, and with the county government, and the Board of Supervisors, what they want in the comprehensive plan with regard to solar, we have no guidance on it. So we can't, to me, it's just very simple. We can't find substantial accord with something that doesn't exist. So, and I may be a minority of one here, but that's just how I feel like we're kind of in a timing bind right now until we have a comprehensive plan that speaks to the subject. So that's my point.
Okay, point well taken. I guess the real challenge is anything that's not in the comprehensive plan, we would have to sit here and have the same discussion coming, that's not in our current thing.
Yeah.
And we've looked at solar as a project in itself, whether it made sense for each individual section and not right or wrong, because we didn't have it in there. We'll look at it on each individual special use permit, whether.
Right.
whether we
Like
want
I
or
say, I've
not.
been guilty of that
And-
too.
And that's, I think we need to still look at that, and that's just my opinion, until we have a new revised comprehensive plan. Otherwise, we're stagnating anything we're looking at here.
Yeah, and, of course, the county can can seek to amend the comprehensive
Yeah.
plan before the wholesale revision.
Right.
I think the county can fix the problem we're in, one way or the other. And we're all involved in it. We have a comprehensive plan process right now.
Right.
Where it's under revision. But again, it's my view that under the state code, we can't find substantial accord with something that isn't in the comprehensive plan.
We, along with a lot of other counties, have gone through the same
Yeah,
exercise.
and a lot of
Yep.
paused until
Right.
they
Right.
could more comprehensively address it. Yes.
Well, I'd like to back up and just say, I think right now, today, our job is to decide on this public hearing, and with, not sure what your conversation there, as we look at every special use permit, how do we feel about this special use permit as a board? And whether we look at in favor of it, against it, or tabling it,
But we can't do that until we find there's been substantial accord.
But the problem is, we've set a precedent by previous, yeah.
And I would question whether each project stands on its own feet, or there is precedential value to previous projects.
Lou, because you're on both boards, has this been addressed at all in the County Board of Supervisors?
No,
No.
I'm not so sure what
And-
the right answer is at this time.
Yeah, I think, I think your comments are certainly well taken. I'd like to make a suggestion. I think we need to emphasize to the boards and the county in itself that we have to find a way to get this resolved with the comprehensive plan and move it forward. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair to anybody that has a special use permit that, we've done it before on special projects that are not in there, and for us to make a decision here, right or wrong, I don't think we should be doing that. It's just, and again, I think what you're saying is exactly right. We've got the cart before the horse right now. Unfortunately, we've been pushing the cart for a while. So, I mean, that's just my opinion from my standpoint here. But I agree totally what you had. It's like, wait a minute now, how can we talk about something that's not in here, you know? But,
So
think-
I guess the question is, if we had the cart before the horse, do we keep it that way or do we flip
well,
it around?
I don't think we,
Can't turn it around midstream.
that's where I'm coming from. I think we need to continue.
Comprehensive plan, I mean, this farming is included in the comprehensive plan, correct?
Say that again.
Farming?
Yes.
Yes.
It's addressed very
Now,
explicitly.
the problem I guess I'd have that, the Department of Energy considers solar farming.
Yep.
That's the Department of Energy. So, now, right or wrong again, that's a cloud, gray area. But
Mr.
you're
County
farming-
Administrator, can I ask a question? Now, the comprehensive plan is up, you know, is being reviewed now. Is there a time frame on that necessarily?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a preliminary schedule that we hope by summer will be in a public hearing
Right.
phase with the planning commission and the board,
Yeah.
but, you know, ultimately,
Yeah.
depends on the planning commission and the board to move along.
And I just thought it was fair for everybody here, the audience, to understand what we are doing. We're trying to bring our comprehensive plan more up to date, and that's no different than anything else. We have to continue to do that as things come along. So yes, what we need to decide, how do we look at a project that's not in the comprehensive plan, the way it is, but as a board and as a county, both the Board of Supervisors and the County Planning Commission, we have been doing solar projects for, Mr. Love, how many years we've been looking at them?
The first one was approved in 2019.
2019, I was gonna say, so we've been at this.
Started in 2018, approved in 2019.
So we've been doing, at this for 6-7 years almost right now, so.
And I voted in favor of,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
to
exactly.
recommend approval
Yeah.
myself. I
Yeah.
recognize
And-
this. I'm
yeah.
just,
And-
reading the applicant's own write-up has caused me to rethink that.
There you go.
And the 2232 review is because state code talks about utility companies being, a utility use.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the way it is now.
That's the way it is.
Okay.
And for the public's benefit here, this review that we're required to go through, this 2232 review, it's a reference to a state statute. It's not for every single special use permit. It's specific to certain types of projects like this.
Including utilities.
Yes,
Yes,
utilities.
Basically all utilities. Yeah, it's all utilities.
Yeah.
We could be sitting here looking at anything utility related the same way. Well, again, I guess I'll look to the board here. Do
I
we
make
have,
a motion to send it on to the county.
okay, so your motion is as the special use permit conditions are?
Conditions
You
on it.
gotta have a finding on you've got, as part of that, if you look at the, pardon me, I have to flip. You look after page,
Six.
yeah, hold on. You have to make a finding of substantial accord or not. That is supposed to be part of your, pardon me, I wasn't on that page. I'll get there.
It's in your recommendations.
Right.
Paragraph, page 6.
And again, that's not a script for you, but it's just a recommendation.
Right. So the motion, if you look at page 6.
Yeah, I make the motion that we move to Oak Lane Solar Farm LLC proposed 5 megawatt solar facility.
Okay,
It's described in the special permit application. Send it to the Prince Edward County, send it to the county
Right.
board.
okay. So we have a motion on the floor?
We still don't have what you need in that motion.
Yeah.
Are you gonna find it substantially in accord?
Yeah.
This
is the key
part.
Substantially in accord
substantially
with our comprehensive
Yep,
plan?
and the use permit is substantially in accord with the Prince Edward County Comprehensive Plan. And the planning
And-
commission recommends approval of the special use permit request with the following.
With the conditions we have
With the
stated and
conditions
have been
stated.
given to the applicant?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor now. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. We'll go around the table then. Mr. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
No.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
Can that be amended? I would like to go ahead and make at least a 100-foot buffer
Sure.
along the creek.
Okay. So we're looking at that would be in our conditions, a 100-foot
Conditions.
buffer, 100-foot buffer along the
Conditions.
creek.
Make sure you ask your applicant.
Is that something acceptable? Okay, from the applicant? Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? Okay, so with the one condition about that. So then you are in favor, okay? Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Weiss?
No,
Okay.
because I do not
Sure.
believe the project is in substantial accord with the conference plan.
Mr. Page?
Say yes.
Okay. So we have 4 yeses and 2 nos, and the chairman will vote yes. So we will move the special use permit that the county planning commission is in favor of this, will be moved to the county board of supervisors at their next meeting. I do want to thank everybody. I know,
One more, yeah. This is April 8th.
yes, April 8th is when it will go to the county board of supervisors. And we do appreciate everybody's input. That's what we're here for, is to listen to everybody here. And I thank you. We do have another special use permit up for discussion, which is the Green Bay. Everybody's welcome to stay. If you were here just for the Oak Lane, you're more than welcome to leave. Would the applicant? I'm sorry?
I think we've got a couple people leaving.
Okay.
You wanted me to do my opening
Yes.
remarks?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, our second public hearing is to consider the Green Bay Solar Farm application, which has been filed by CEP Solar. It is to make a determination if the project is substantially in accord with the Prince Edward County Comprehensive Plan, also to evaluate the proposal to construct and operate a 5-megawatt solar energy facility on land totaling 67.8 acres. This is on 2 parcels of land denoted as tax parcel map 107-A-63, 107-A-64. This is located on Patrick Henry Highway, which is Route 360, near its intersection with Cheatham Road, which is Route 694. This property is zoned A1 agricultural conservation, like the previous application. With this project, it's currently primarily timber. The project will contain, project will have buildable area approximately 58 acres, of which approximately 39 acres of solar panels and project infrastructure. Therefore, there will be 29 acres of setbacks, buffers, and wildlife corridors. This project in special use permit hearing has been properly advertised. Adjoining property owners were notified. And you have, I think you've got some comments that came in from the public in your packet. I'd be glad to answer any questions of me. Of course, the applicant is here tonight to give a presentation on this one.
With the current board members that are here, and I know some have stepped out, do we have any questions for Mr. Love? Okay. I think we'll wait just another minute or two for the other 2 board members to return.
Didn't see you.
Know where you rank with him?
Just Mrs. Whitfield.
Okay.
call this halftime. Everybody can relax for a minute or two. All the board has returned, and what we're doing right now is, Mr. Love has just given us an overview of the Green Bay project. And unless there's questions for Mr. Love, I'd like to ask the applicant to come up.
All right, good evening.
ready, sir.
Again. Okay, good, this is working. So there's a lot of similar slides, so we won't cover the same ground again. I'll kind of do an abbreviated version where it's appropriate. I'll highlight some differences, but yeah, don't want to belabor similar points. So again, comprehensive plan and zoning compliance, very important. This is a similar project in a similar type of location, similar scale, similar current land use. So we came to the same conclusion based on our analysis that it is in conformity with the comprehensive plan, current comprehensive plan. So I know there's some nuance there. Similarly, it complies with the zoning ordinance and all the conditions that are applied to it, which are pretty much the exact same, barring one small difference. So essentially, most of what we have talked about in the previous project can be applied here. Again, we do environmental and cultural due diligence, early stage desktop studies. We haven't found in the desktop review the presence of any threatened and endangered species or historical or archaeological resources. And we'll be working with the state agencies as appropriate, and later the state permitting portion of the project. Here's, again, the sort of project details. This is same size, up to 5 megawatts, similar timeline, we're estimating construction in 2027 and operating for up to 40 years. This project is sitting on 2 privately owned parcels, as you can see in the image there. There are the whole combination of both parcels are 68 acres total. We're considering about 58 acres, and we anticipate that around 40 acres for the solar facility. So we'll just, again, this is that visualization again. You can see the light blue is what we're considering or evaluating. Dark blue is preliminary panel layout. So there's not as much extra land here, so you can see that the panels essentially take up most of the combination of the properties, barring the setbacks from the creek there and the neighboring parcels in the road. As far as entrances go, we've got 2 construction entrances proposed, both along Cheatham Road. There's stars along the road there. They're just down the road from each other. The point of interconnection is planned, again, for the this distribution line is existing right next to the property, and this project will connect directly to the distribution line because it is of an appropriate scale to tie in right there. No substation needed. In terms of buffering and visibility, both properties have been timbered, and we are planning for a planted buffer around the perimeter of the property to mitigate views from neighbors and from the roadway. And along Route 360, there's about a 10 to 12 foot berm for the majority of the stretch there, so that's going to minimize visibility for motorists. And I'll just jump to the visual simulations to kind of paint the picture. So The first one is going to be of the property entrance, or the construction entrance, right along Cheatham Road. The first star, when you get off of 360. So that's what this is. There's a little bit of elevation. This is existing conditions. And then this is at planting. So you can see the setback. You know, you see a little bit of trees, a little bit of panels over the crest of the hill there. And then at maturity. And then this is the berm. That is along Route 360 that runs really most of the stretch there. It's 10 to 12 feet tall, so really the vantage point from a car, you won't be able to see over it. You'd have to be in a, I don't know, monster truck or something to get to have a visibility over that berm. And here's a little bit further down 360, same berm, similar. There's some scrub that's grown up along it, and we'll have additional plantings behind it that we didn't visualize because you won't be able to see them from the road here. Okay, so jumping into similar slide, construction, operations, decommissioning. I'll just point out the same points as last time. We've got strong erosion and sediment control requirements that go beyond what is required by DEQ. So, and the scale of this project is such that the acreage, whatever acreage it needs to be disturbed, will be of a manageable scale. And one thing I didn't mention is that these projects, or this project and the previous one, are of a scale that DEQ does not need to be the stormwater management authority. It can be managed locally, so that means more responsive in terms of inspections and just being able to check in on how things are going. So that's another, kind of a positive aspect of the scale here. And then similarly for decommissioning, all the materials will be removed, recycled, or disposed of in accordance with the appropriate regulations. We've got the bond in place that will make sure that there is funding to do this when it is necessary, and then the site's going to be restabilized afterwards. We actually did a joint community meeting, so both of these were held in December 2024 because they're kind of close to each other. Again, the same turnout. Some folks were for both projects, some were for just one. We were able to connect with people there and have some good conversations. This is when it kind of gets a little repetitive, so the same requirements with respect to ground cover, the low-lying ground cover under the panels, taller pollinator species outside of the paneled area. Similar results in terms of economic benefits because it's kind of driven by the project scale. So one-time kind of pulse of activity during construction and then some sustained economic activity afterwards. Revenue comparison, we project that the revenue will increase over the life of the project from $25,000 to about $700,000. And then this is that same sort of high-level community benefits review. So environmental and ecological benefits, well, first and foremost, affordable and emission-free electricity, and then kind of subsequent benefits are related to environmental and ecology, tax revenue, public health, and land use and land banking. So that's all I've got, and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant from the board here? Okay.
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
In reference to the fire safety portion of it, you said that you would have inverters and batteries. Where are they going to be located at on the property itself?
Yes, so there are no batteries with this site.
Okay.
That's, some projects have co-located battery energy storage systems. That's not a requirement. So this is just solar panels. The inverters are basically kind of like a refrigerator size or maybe a little bit bigger component that translates the energy from the panels from DC into AC so that it can go on the grid. And those are generally located more central to the project. There has been a lot of conversation recently about noise from the projects, and that is, solar panels don't make noise. The inverters are what make the noise. and they're not that loud. You know, maybe if you're standing right next to them, I'm actually not sure how loud they are if you're standing right next to them. But I can say that in the solar ordinance, there's a requirement that at the property lines, the project only emit a noise, a sound level of 50 decibels, and that's like a quiet conversation. So that is kind of further bolstered in the conditions. Again, the same requirement, 50 decibels, but there's a testing component that's been added. So, yeah, with that requirement in place, the inverters will be located.
That determines the location, basically, where they are within the
Yeah.
project.
We want to be in compliance,
Right.
so they're going to be more centrally
Okay.
located.
Two things. Ongoing potential contract with Dominion on this one also?
This is in Dominion territory. I can't speak to the commercialization or where we're evaluating, but that's possible that we'd work with Dominion on this one. Tyson may be able to add some more color to that.
Yeah, if I may, I mean, we did talk at the first project about how, yes, the project could be sold. We also can retain, own, and operate the projects as well. So we didn't want to belabor the point, but the fact is just being open, transparent, and honest about the fact that to say that's predetermined today, I think is a superficial thing to do. And so we're in the position to be able to provide the power. We could sell the power or the project to Dominion. What's key is really the fact that we're doing two projects together here, requires separate hearings, but it helps us to achieve some of the economies of scale, right? Just being a couple of miles from each other. We don't want to have to concentrate too much solar in one particular area. You know, more homeowners having one impact from one larger project. This way they're able to be spread out and separate, but then we're able to have a common approach to be able to finance both of the projects together. So I just wanted to clarify that could be a possibility, but it is connected to the local Dominion grid, and so those customers within Prince Edward County will be benefiting from that.
Once it's on the grid, it can go anywhere.
Yes, you can't track where it goes, but there's kind of a hierarchy where the power goes. Because this project connects to the distribution grid, there's distribution grid and there's the transmission system. And the easiest analogy I find is that the transmission system is like the highway or the freeway. The distribution system is like the back roads that go to your house. So because we're connecting to the distribution system, just from a technical, like general concept, the power or the energy flows to the nearest demand. Right. So because it's that sort of back roads distribution system, it's going to flow to homes and businesses along that circuit first. And if the energy generated from the project exceeds the demand in any given moment, it could go, flow to the substation, then go up on the transmission line and, go somewhere else. But I can't tell you if and when that'll happen and how often, but generally for this scale of project, most of the power or energy would be used locally.
If you look at your green line all the way around, does the lay of the land fall toward that wetlands going into that pond?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a west to east slope, and then there's also it does sort of converge towards the stream there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it would the drainage area would be into that pond. But again, erosion and sediment standards are very high on this project, and it's a manageable scale. So that shouldn't be a concern, any negative impacts on that pond.
Solar panels don't absorb water, land does.
Yeah, and it's good that land absorbs water, so it doesn't run off and carry with it, any sediment. So that's the concern is if you don't have stabilization and you don't have rooted ground cover, the water just runs right off the land. So.
And this little wet streak's got a 50-foot buffer around it right now?
It does, yep. We can go to 100 if you want to just run that one back.
So we could go to 100 and, just like we on the last project. Okay. We'd make that, should it go forward, we'd make that one of the considerations or one of the requirements, the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant from the board? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
with that, we'll open the public hearing. I'll just ask for the same thing, if we can try to limit to 3 minutes. And Natalie, we would like you to go first. Is that okay with you? Okay.
As I said earlier, I just have some questions now that I have the right site plan. But I beg to differ, because if I had not gone out to 360 a couple of weeks ago to see the sign, how was the residents communicated to? Because I don't remember getting a phone call, I don't remember getting a letter. I just saw that little sign that was in the land there, so I'm a little concerned about that. That I might have been missing more meetings, or so.
With any special use permit like this, it is advertised in the paper.
Okay.
And also, a letter is sent to the adjacent,
Adjoiners.
adjoining land,
We also
landowners.
put it on the county
Yeah,
website,
yeah.
and then we also, the applicant also had a community
yeah.
meeting. But again, they contacted people that actually physically touch
Right.
the parcel.
Okay, all right, I'm not exactly
That's it.
touching it, but I am a little ways away from it. But I guess my overall questions are, I'm concerned with the property taxes.
Right.
I mean, I know that it'll be revenue to Prince Edward County, but as a taxpayer, how does that going to impact me? Is my property taxes going to increase, or will they decrease? Because, this solar site is going to bring all this beautification and revenue to the area. The noise level is what I'm worried about too. During the construction phase, I work remotely from home, so my peace and quiet is very, very valuable to me. It's a very quiet street. I'm quite sure, they're going to be in and out. When they cut those trees down a couple of years back, they left that, it was a lot of noise in and out. They left that road horrible. I mean, potholes, dirt, everything. So I'm concerned with that. Safety, I mean, with the solar panels, how's that going to impact anyone's overall health? I mean, I'm not 100% up to date on what solar panels do. I do have some solar apparatuses at the house that I kind of like, my outdoor lighting, stuff like that. But, what harmful rays, if any, would they be putting into the air for people who live in that immediate area there? Because you're talking not just a few little lights, you're talking about quite a few panels. And I'm a visual person, and it says that it's 50 million watts. Looking at a football field, what is that in comparison to? What does 55 million watts look like? So that's another one of my concerns there. And you did say something about the noise, 50 decibels. What does that sound like? I mean, if you're living in that area, are you going to hear constant humming all day long, all day night? Is it something that just comes on at peak time? Does it go off like later on after 5 o'clock or something like that? So when they're doing the construction, after it's done, are those panels going to be fenced in, or is it just going to be open terrain? Is it going to be monitored? Are they going to have security, or just, they're just going to be sitting there? And the panels, if they crack, if it's broken, I mean, is there going to be some type of repair for that? So those are my concerns there, just the overall construction, the safety mechanism. What are they going to do to make us as citizens or residents of that area feel secure? If, in fact, that's something that we.
Natalie, we did answer some of those questions in the first one. Would, Mr. Love can help with some of the questions.
I'm gonna try to answer a couple of those. I'm a staff member, so I'm not voting up here tonight. I'll be clear to you on that. This won't have a direct effect on your tax bill. Any revenues that come in from solar sites go to the general county fund. Some of those funds could be used for capital improvements, such as the school renovation. We've got a board member here tonight, maybe can expand on that. But we have a lot of projects in the capital improvements, upgrading trash collection centers, doing things like an animal shelter. That's what funds generally from the revenue share could be used for. Also, there's a general need for the county that Board of Supervisors will vote on funds every year during the course of the budget. So that's two things. As far as construction traffic noise, we have some conditions, and I know you may not have seen these. They have to have construction hours during daylight hours. We have a construction management plan with an emergency action plan that includes fire and safety. Also, as far as the roads, we will actually have a bond that their engineer will supply to us. We would have VDOT, no, this is a road bond. It's a road repair bond. So we evaluate the road beforehand. They do construction. We have VDOT and our staff, myself, would come out after and make sure there was no damage to the road. If the road was damaged, we would pull that bond. VDOT would use it to make a repair, or they'd have the, they would, sometimes they could allow the applicant to hire a contractor to do that. But the road will not degrade. If it does, if there's an issue, then it would be fixed. We have bonding in place during the construction. Also, during construction, we have, because this is a smaller site, we will likely be doing stormwater and erosion and sediment control to contain water. It's water quality, water quantity. That's so mud and sediment doesn't leave the property, get into a stream or creek or even somebody's general property. There's a bond with that. So if they have a problem, or we identify a problem, there's bonding. We also have, through the Code of Virginia, the ability to levy a fine. So those things are in place if a project were to get approved. So I just wanted you to, does that answer most of your questions?
Yeah, it does. And just one other thing I thought of.
The watts are, that's electrical watts, not like light watts. This site will not be lit like a football field. In fact, we say any lighting should be for site security only. Down, turn, full cutoff fixtures, also known as night sky friendly, because we have that on any project we do. Because we have the Firefly Festival, we have a lot of astrologers, people coming here to look at the sky from the city, so we protect the light pollution. I think that covers.
You had a question about noise, the 50 decibels.
50 decibels is what you and I are communicating. I can go up to probably 60, quite frankly.
So that's going to be a continuous type of,
No, that's a max that it could emit at the property line. So your property physically doesn't touch this, so you would hear even less than that. Because of 50 is what would be measured at their property line around that green, that bright green.
right, but I will be hearing something other than the peace and quiet that I'm enjoying right now.
Well, it's technically, the 50 decibels is about a standard conversation we'd be having face-to-face like this. And that's the 50 decibels, which is on the site, not next to your property.
Yeah, I will tell you, we had, just as a side note, we had a shooting range that was applied for here, and we did decibel, we did kind of a decibel class almost. Rustling of leaves is about 40 to 50. Highway traffic, and we measured some with a meter out on Highway 15. Transfer truck traffic is about 70 to 76, trucks coming by making that noise. So this is much less than what would be on Highway 360.
Okay.
It would, so I don't believe you'd hear anything at your property, because if I was talking at the property line, you probably couldn't hear this conversation a good distance away.
All right. And for my own curiosity, what are the panels going to be used for? I mean, am I going to be able to take advantage of them?
I'll let them answer that.
If you want to mention a little bit about where the power is going to go, if you can just stand from there, if you just take a second, or you can just quickly mention where the power goes.
Sure, yeah, so, I guess there's two options. This is eligible for shared solar potentially. Okay, so, generally speaking, the energy is produced from the sun hitting those panels, and it goes into the grid and powers nearby homes, generally speaking. So that's sort of from a technical standpoint. From a commercial standpoint, like who's buying the power, there's two options. This project is eligible for what's called a shared solar program. So it's possible that we end up in that program. Local folks in the community could
but it's like a subscription type of thing. It's not like, you know, it's in my neighborhood, I'm gonna get to take advantage of it.
It's not, yeah, your proximity to it doesn't necessarily mean that you're buying that energy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Robin may have mentioned it, but it is fenced in.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, that was the
Yeah,
other
it is
one.
fenced in
Is
all
it
the way
going to
around,
be
yes.
fenced in? And what about, will there be security patrolling the area, or is just fenced in and then that's it? Are they gonna have security to check on it, you know?
What we'll
or-
do is we'll save some of the questions that come from the public hearing, and
Okay.
we'll let the applicant
All
bring
right.
those up.
Okay, thank you.
Thomas Nelson?
My name is Thomas Nelson, and I live on Cheatham Forest Road, 95 yards off of Cheatham Road. I've got just a couple of things that concern me about it. Mr. Fuller has more or less got the berm set up 100 feet away from my house, or 100 feet from a dwelling. Well, that's exactly about how far I live off of this land. This land that borders up on Cheatham Forest Road is owned by the Page Estate, and Winfred Page is the executor, and he lives in Jacksonville, Florida. So I'm sure he's not really concerned about what's going on up here. This land that has been timbered in the last couple, 3 years is not a flat land. There are hills out there that the cattle are on right now, and there's some right deep ravines in there. If they're going to come in there and put a solar field and expect to get flat land, they're going to have to cut some of these hills back 200-300 feet. There's a lot of ravines in there. And if you go back, well, if you look at that map right there, that big blue pond, if I'm not mistaken, that's Twin Lakes. That's one of the Twin Lakes right there. It's not?
No.
They-
Belongs to Mac Bailey.
It's where?
Belongs to Mac Bailey. It's where it's-
Max Bailey? All right, that's Max Bailey's. And then there's another pond up by his house, and then another one over off 360. And if that's one of the ravines that runs into that pond, there's a couple of them that run on down towards the Weaver Creek and down towards Sandy Creek. That's down in the state forest. And I'm not so sure for it, they don't go into Sandy River Reservoir. At last week's meeting, Mr. Gillum was here on that, so he has heard more about this from people that know a whole lot more about solar than I do or could ever hope to know. But these ponds, Max Bailey's pond and these creeks down in the forest, that could do some serious damage. Now, putting a fence around all this land right here, that is going to really delete an area for wildlife to move through. This goes back quite a good ways. It goes back maybe 100, 200 yards back behind up to where the state forest almost comes to. And there's a large area right there that people do hunt over. It's cut over. It's starting to come back in a natural form. And it is a huge, huge windbreak for my home and others that live up on Cheatham Forest Road as well.
That's 3 minutes, sir. If you could wrap it up a little bit.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
Is CEP a standalone company or a subsidiary of another company?
Mr. Brian Zahn?
I'm about to slow getting there, Gaff. We've all talked about this. Brian Zahn from Lee District. We've talked about it a bunch, and I'm just going to add to Mr. Nelson that is very hilly property. I don't care what 10-foot berm you're gonna put on there, and what you're gonna do, you're gonna see it coming and going up 360 big time. There are two great big hills. That is a spring creek. That's just not a creek that passes through it. That's where it begins. Flipping Creek goes into Mac Bailey's, goes to whatever it goes to, and it does go into the Sandy River Reservoir. That's where it'll end up. If this thing does pass, I heard maybe they'll do the 100-foot buffer, but they also need to address a buffer on the front like they did the other side of 360 where you won't see stuff. They need to push that back. They've got it shoved right up in there, and it's two big hills is really what it is. If you drive through there, you'll see. And it's going to take an awful lot of coverage and stuff so that they all say you're not going to see it. You're going to see it somewhere in multiple places. And this saving us energy, is that why I keep getting an Energy Plus bill from Dominion Energy every time I get my bill, or from Southside? They keep adding something, and that's because of the reason of them subsidizing or getting government subsidies for these new type of green energy. You know, is that going to all go away? Every time I turn around, well, we're charging $10 more, $8 here, and this is why, okay? So I vote no, or hope y'all will vote no, and if not, we'll see y'all at the board, super vote.
Thank you. Tabitha?
So to piggyback off of the downstream sites, this site is more important than the first site because this site, one, feeds right into the state forest. We're talking about conservation land again. It feeds right into that reservoir. There are core 1 samples not far that are gonna feed right from Flippin Creek. It's in the state forest. In Core 1 samples, there are only 1% in the Commonwealth of Virginia that are Core 1 samples, and this land is it. And this is what we are trying to preserve here. This land is for our generations to come, and we're gonna destroy it and put industry-size facilities, not farms, facilities, on conservation property. And just to keep piggybacking, this is all downstream. It's gonna feed right into that spring fed, all the way down to that state forest, which is not far.
Back property line of the state forest.
This property, I'm more passionate about you guys saying no than the last one, and the last one was bigger, because this one is gonna be a bigger impact to our environment and to our future as residents, as my family's future into this county. I just plead with you to say no. And especially with it's bad for the environment. Just please say no.
Thank you. David Jennings?
Again, David Jennings, Lee District. I'm here as a resident of Lee District, but also on behalf of Judy Jennings, a neighboring landowner. Our family's farm is over here. I want to draw attention to this in particular because I think this picture serves as a pretty good example of comprehensive county planning, existing zoning ordinances, offsets when you subdivide property versus the special use permit. Put it together, see what community is not organized or is organized enough to be able to oppose it. You know, about half the room now is with, I guess, experts for the company. I'm curious if the county has really used any experts to challenge any of that information, if the county's ever employed any consulting firms to evaluate the solar projects. I guess I've overheard in the previous hearing that I think you said the first project came in 2019. You know, the solar outfits will hire companies like Timmons, maybe they do the engineering, but also part of their job is to, you know, not to sugarcoat, to spoon feed a yes through the county process. You know, I'm wondering if the county has really drawn on any additional resources to evaluate some of the information put forward. You know, my mother, our family is opposed to this. We hope that you would vote no on that process. I'm curious if the county has done it, you know, as I said about the consultants, I'm curious if the county has done any form of formal study related to the comprehensive approach related to additional solar farms. It's a snowball effect at this point. Talked to somebody today from Powhatan County. Powhatan, I understand, and I think I heard somebody say someone's here today from Powhatan, as a matter of fact, but Powhatan County has instituted a moratorium on their solar projects because they're being overrun right now with them. You know, I think anybody in here probably knows 2 or 3 people that they've heard have things in the works, and Mr. Love probably has a pretty good idea of some, but there's probably other ones being organized that maybe, you know, will be forthcoming. But the county, if it's not in the comprehensive plan, Mr. Weiss, I enjoyed your comments from the previous one. The county needs to get ahead of it rather than a trial and error approach that affects the landowners adjacent, you know. County's gonna make money off of this project, affect this guy's property. He's gonna continue to make payments. He's not gonna get any benefit related to that. You know, all these properties are gonna be affected by it, but the county's gonna continue to make money, but that person's not gonna get any sort of break related to their taxes. Something like that should be considered. Further, and I'm not saying that on behalf of this, I'm just saying in general, this house right here, you sit on the front porch and you're gonna look at a big bowl of solar panels. Nobody's mentioned it. It's about a 40-foot drop from that berm to here. It might even be further. I know because I've walked it. You know, it's my understanding that.
Time's up, so if you can just
Okay.
try to wrap it up, and thank you.
It's my understanding that the only rule in place is what, a 15-foot vegetative buffer around the property. There needs to be more evaluation of the larger offsets related to that sort of thing, you know, as it's a change in the nature of the entire landscape. It very negatively affects all the adjoining properties. I think collectively, the county has not taken a proactive approach on managing this. They're just reacting and counting the dollar potential.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Folks?
I have just a few things to add. We had our other solar projects approved last summer that were above the Sandy River Reservoir through Miller's Lake. And that was just as close as that pond. And I have full faith that this company will follow through like they should. That bonds are in place, they have a good reputation. Also, I mean, we want to be good stewards of the land, I keep saying that. We're not out here to have problems for other people, and we won't have it where people, you know, it should be, again, a mix of things, not just one side only. It should be where you have a diverse economy. That is part of your plan here. And we own a good amount of land. We never even charge people for hunting. And we let the people hunt there like our father used to do before. And the people that always hunted there, let them hunt. But some things we are changing a few things, but that's it basically. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy?
Patrick Murphy, Prospect District. To go along with what Mr. Weiss said earlier, we spent countless evenings in 2014. Some people didn't even own land here then. Mr. Love wasn't here. Mr. Stanley wasn't here to develop a solid public input-based comprehensive plan. Night after night, review after review, and the resounding accord of the people of Prince Edward County, and I quote, "We all like the country-esque appeal of Prince Edward County." How does a solar panel fit into that? Mr. Jennings is exactly correct. I drove Monday night all through Cheatham Road. The man who lives adjacent, right across the street on Cheatham Road, lives up on a hill. You're going to have to transplant 25-foot tall trees to block that man's view. Furthermore, on the highway, I went to harvest a piece of timber in Prospect. VDOT came and said, you can't cut that because of the Highway Beautification Act. Well, we need to be putting some mighty large trees along there. Even though you have a large berm, you will still have visibility. That is just the way it works. Rural character, country-esque appeal is what the people of Prince Edward put in front of you in the comprehensive plan. We encourage you to follow that currently. I realize the new plan is in the works. The new plan has not been voted on or enacted at this point in time. Please use what's in front of you. We at Farm Bureau encourage smaller scale solar, even smaller than this. We understand people want the revenue. We understand the county wants the revenue. The county needs to reach out to business owners like myself to turn around to help create a task force to help generate revenue within Prince Edward County. There are some great minds here. Furthermore, most alarming came from the project manager selling to another buyer. Mr. Gillum owns a business. I own a business. I may buy Mr. Gillum's business tomorrow. You may know it, you may not know it. I may turn around and sell it to somebody from Indonesia. I may sell it to somebody from Kansas. It takes away the possibility of controlling things. When these problems present themselves in future years, many of you will not be sitting here. Mr. Jennings is at least young enough that he will probably be here and still be an active farmer. I may not be here either. It's very alarming that they bring up the fact that selling to another buyer, corporate shenanigans, runs amok, happens every day. You buy, you sell, you mess over the people that you think don't have accountability behind you. Please vote no on this.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Is there anybody on the call? Nobody? We do have one on the call? No. Okay, thank you. Does anybody else in the audience wish to speak relative to this project?
I have a question. I didn't speak my 3 minutes, and I have 20 more seconds. I have one thing to say.
I'm sorry, no, I can't do that, I'm sorry. I can't ask somebody else to come back up, I'd have to let everybody else do that, okay. Anybody else? Okay. With that, I'll close the public hearing. I do want to have the applicant maybe a rebuttal on a couple of the things that came up. We handled a lot of them with Natalie Folks, but there was a couple other ones that came up.
Just be listening to the questions by the board.
I'm sorry? Wait,
Last time it was a true rebuttal. It should be answering just the questions that the planning commission has.
this is the rebuttal back to the people that had questions that came up. That's what this person's doing right now, the applicant. Go ahead, sir.
Granted the same.
Go ahead, sir.
Applicants get rebuttal, sir. The
Yes.
citizens don't get rebuttal. That's in their rules of procedure.
We're happy to discuss anything with anyone after the meeting as well. So I'll just touch on a few points related to security. There's not on-site security. There's not like people, patrolling. It's the fence is the security mechanism, and these projects are monitored remotely. Their energy output is. So if anything happens to the project that affects the energy output, that's sort of one way of managing or monitoring it and being aware of that. With respect to the slopes, we touched on this earlier. These sites, we're aware of the slope. First of all, it's like the first part of our due diligence process when it comes to a site is evaluating the site characteristics. So it does not need to be flat in order for solar panels to be placed on the site. And as was stated earlier, our goal is to minimize grading because grading is the disturbing part or the land disturbance component of the development process. And related to grading, all of the concern about downstream impacts is premised on there being erosion issues. And I know that there have been problems with projects in the past, but I'm trying to draw the distinction between the scale of this project and the the significant erosion and sediment control issues or measures that we have in place. And, with respect to the studies that we facilitate for these applications, I talked about the property value one earlier. Our goal is not to hoodwink you all into approving a project. Speaking for our company, our job is to research these issues, separate fact from fiction, and recognize when there's some gray area. And I like to run towards problems and understand them, and if there is a problem, adjust for it. So if you all have white papers, research papers, please send them to me. I would love to look at them, and again, we want to know where we can solve problems and not avoid or hide them. Let's see. I think that's all I've got. So, yeah, I'll just... Oh, yeah, sure.
Thanks again, everyone, for the comments. Hopefully, we can help clarify and answer. Like Harry said, we're happy to talk further afterwards, as always. I think part of the stormwater concern, too, Harry talked about, there have been errors before. We acknowledge that in the industry. They were not ours. They were early in this market in the sort of mid to late 2000s. I think the industry and the state have worked hand in hand along with counties to correct and avoid those issues by collaborating through a highly intense DEQ process to establish new standards and requirements to prevent the issues that occurred in sort of the mid to late 2010s. That will absolutely help this project relative to some of those previous stories. Can we flip back to actually the first slide with our team picture on there?
I would if this thing was working. Oh, hey.
Yeah, I did want to clarify, just for understanding, the projects I built personally before too, we owned and operated those for long periods of time, and the operations and maintenance of these facilities take over once the power is turned on. This is an example of an operating site actually in Powhatan. It's a 20 megawatt project that's owned by Dominion. This is what the project looks like once it's up and operating, and part of the mitigation effort for runoff is that the site gets stabilized. So this is our team out here last year, and you have highly established and stabilized grasses throughout the project. So once it's operating, it's a field, and you can see how limited the actual pervious surface is by the posts that are driven in the ground. The stormwater basins that are designed for long-term mitigation remain in place. There are construction basins that go in during the construction phase to help prevent address the different conditions that occur during construction specifically, and then ultimately that construction period is closed out. So I do just want to emphasize it's carefully managed. As Robbie said, I think this would fall under county oversight for stormwater inspections during construction. The site should be stabilized. We are limited by condition to only disturb 50% of the project area at a time, and stabilization would come into play right after disturbance. That's all following DEQ guidelines. Get the site stabilized before you go start installing racking and installing panels. Basins are located, we're still early. If we could flip back to the site plan too, part of what we do working with Timmons and other consultants and reviewing with other agencies is making sure that stormwater management is designed to prevent stormwater from running into the streams. We cannot, Harry, you're better at keeping this straight than I am, but we cannot increase quantity of runoff off the site, right? And then from a quality standpoint, there are specific requirements that the project has to meet.
Say that one more time.
The shorthand is according to DEQ's stormwater guidelines, both the quantity and the quality of stormwater flowing off of the site needs to be maintained pre and post
How
development.
do you do that?
That's well, quantity, the two issues are quantity, which is, flow rate, essentially, sheet flow over the land. And there's various methods to calculate this. There's curve numbers that are used to say, given a certain ground cover and a certain rain event, here's how much we model will flow off the land. Quality is a little more complicated, and I'm not as familiar with that, but there is a robust set of modeling and methods and procedures to ensure that the water quality is maintained.
Can I have a minute, Mr. Chair? Is it time where I can ask a question or two or make a comment, or should I wait a few moments?
Did you want me to talk to you about just so you know, the water quality and quantity?
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm going down a different road.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure I'm in the right time to do it.
I think we'll wait till we have the board discussion, if that's okay, Mr. Gilligan.
I think that's all we had. So yeah, we can transfer to that.
Just from a project ownership perspective, I know it's actually a really good question, and it's one we're happy to discuss at length. These projects first go through the county process. This is a state process requirement. We have to go through the county process first. Then the project goes through the state approvals. If there are any additional Army Corps approvals, those would come later in the pre-construction phase. Then we go to the county for the building permit, and that's when more definitive building construction documents are reviewed by the county for approval, and consideration, and potentially approval. CEP was started with our background in actually working on different projects through different phases, including construction, including operation, to make sure that we start and develop these projects from the beginning to be of the highest quality and mitigate a lot of these questions and topics that are coming up. We are designed to take the project through at least the beginning of construction, if not now through construction and beyond. We can't, there are different owners at different phases. That's sort of how the industry works. It's almost like you turn over a house to if a developer zones a property and a builder buys the lot and sells it to a homeowner. Those transitions happen. We are very careful about if we sell the project, who we sell it to. Dominion could end up being the owner and operator of this project. That's one outcome. So we're talking about well-backed owners with resumes and financing and operating procedures that can maintain the quality standard that we've set. And I do just want to also emphasize the conditions of, part of the reason we start early in making sure the conditions are right is that they carry for 40 years. So anything that's in the condition that does get considered, and if approved, that runs with the land regardless of who the project owner is. And there are protections for the county, for the landowner, for the community through the standard fines or whatever the penalties are by the county to be able to maintain those conditions throughout construction and the life of the project. So, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay. We'll close the public hearing at this time then. And Lou, you had a question, sir? You want to bring it up now?
Yes, please. A whole lot of time and thought has gone into this. There's one question I would like to have answered to. In Mr. Bailey's pond, what diameter is the overflow pipe? And I'll explain myself. Do you know the answer to that question?
Into Mr. Bailey's pond?
Yes. What size is the overflow pipe? Has anybody
You're saying
looked at
from the
that?
pond into, okay, I see the flat line there that look, no, that's not in the purview of where we are.
I
in
would
the
like to know
development
that,
process.
and I'll explain myself.
Okay.
Years ago, I built a pond on my farm. I went through the DEQ, I went through the Army Corps of Engineers. It took 11 months to get permitted. When it come time to do the work, The requirements was a 6-inch overflow pipe. I said, you lost your mind. It's too small. And I'm in the irrigation business. I can determine pipe diameter, flow rates very easily. So I said, well, I'm gonna put a 12-inch pipe in it, just to make sure, but I still don't think it's big enough. I plugged that pond on December 1st, was my daddy's birthday. January the 7th, we had a 6-inch rain. And I pulled that in, look at my nice pond. And the water is going over the whole dam. And I said, it's gone. $24,000 gonna wash down the hill, I'm gonna be in violation, I'm gonna be fined. Who knows what's gonna happen? I had enough grass that held. Good Lord looked after me. I went back. Look, guys, something went wrong. I wanna know what went wrong. You know what happened? They plugged in 81 acres of watershed. It's 281 acres of watershed. Well, how do we fix this problem? Oh, you gotta build a 75-foot wide spillway over here. I said, the bank is 40 foot high. You know how long it's gonna take me to do that? So in this project, I like the way you got it all put together. But somebody's gotta talk to Mr. Bailey about his pipe. Because I guarantee you, when you got cut over timber, woodland, whatever, you got a certain amount of water that will retain in that land. But when you put an impervious surface on it, whether it's asphalt, concrete, whatever, you're gonna have more runoff. And if it goes in that pond and washes out his pond, who's gonna be responsible for that? Or who else downstream? This is questions that's gotta be answered.
Sure. That makes sense. We have been in touch with Mr. Bailey. Before the board meeting, I will do my best to try to get the diameter of that pipe.
And how wide his spillway is.
And how wide his spillway is. I can't make any promises, but I'm gonna do my best. I can add some color to that, to your statement about estimating the overland flow. When we talk about the revisions to the Virginia Stormwater Management Handbook by DEQ, one of the issues identified for underestimating the flow from these projects is they didn't update the curve number that basically estimates how much is going to infiltrate versus how much is going to be runoff. So they were underestimating the runoff earlier in these projects. DEQ has since corrected for that. So the long and short of it is they are, in some opinions, overcorrecting for estimating the runoff from these projects. And interestingly, the Virginia Co-op is performing a long-term study right now where they are monitoring, I don't know how many projects, I think it's 6 to 8. They're monitoring actual stormwater runoff from those projects, and they're going to come up with real, or we'll say field-tested coefficients for this type of modeling that will be not under, not over, but more accurate, conservatively accurate.
Just for information that you can look up one that's ongoing, Mount Jackson, Virginia. And the reason I know this is because I've got farmers up there I deal with. But if you look to the west side of 81, there's a large solar project, and WSET News yesterday had an article on it. The gentleman that lives at the foot of the hill has videoed and taken pictures of the runoff running through his yard. And they've tried to get it corrected for over a year.
Yep, and that makes sense. So that was a recent article.
Yes, sir.
So the project that's in construction, that project, I don't know what project it is, but many of these projects are.
It's been completed for a couple of years.
Okay, so that project was approved and designed in accordance with older DEQ requirements. So, and that's some of the sort of complexity and issue that we're seeing here is that the projects that are having issues now were permitted and designed several years ago, and the industry has worked hard to correct for that, but we're not going to see those corrections in the form of projects in the ground until these are slated for 2027. So
We want to get
again,
it right the first time.
I know, yep, I agree. and there have been issues, and we, like I said before, we don't run away from issues. We understand them and try to correct for them. So it's just a very long lag in feedback, or, yeah, long lag time between these corrections and when you see them implemented, and we can learn from them, essentially, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in front of the board here right now, we have the Green Bay Solar Farm project. I think somewhat similar to what we talked about before. Mr. Weiss's comments are definitely there, and it's something we have to talk about. I think that is part and parcel of what we do with the new comprehensive plan. We not only look at doing things like this, but put other things in there that we hope will take care of future needs. But any questions or discussion?
Well,
Go ahead.
a couple comments. Lou, I watched that pond being built, so I concur with you. I watched it being built. From a 30,000 foot view, well, we aren't getting paid enough, number one. I want to go ahead and make that fact established. But from a 30,000 standpoint, I mean, Virginia has more data centers than any other locality in the whole world. We're sucking energy up left and right.
Yep.
But what we have to do right here is decide what is for the general good of Prince Edward County versus individual property rights. And I think it's a tough decision, and I'm ready to make a motion when you feel it's appropriate.
Well, I do want to bring something up. In one of the prior discussions where we were with both boards, there was one individual, and you can help me, Mr. Love, that talked about the amount of acreage on a percentage for the county that were tied up in solar farms. Because it was
Yeah, right now, it's less than 0.5%.
less than 0.5%.
I think it's
And I know-
0.15.
Yeah, 0.15. And that goes back to the comments here. That's the challenge we have running the county. We don't want to be a solar county. And that's one of the things that was brought up when we talked about this. How do we look at all types of energy projects? We were all in there discussing that, and those are some of the things, I guess, just to let you know, that's something we have to look at, not just this group, everybody has to look at how do we look at the county moving forward from being a rural county, and how do we understand how that happens, and how do you balance how the county survives and how the county thrives and things like that. So, but just understand, that's a number that shocked a lot of us, because we had been looking at a lot of solar projects and understand that less than 2% of the county has land is tied up in solar projects now. And that's different than a lot of other counties. So that's what we're looking at. Nothing, this still is an individual project, but I think some of you just need to know that, and that's something we all look at here. Go ahead.
I'm familiar with both projects, both sites, but I move that the Green Bay Solar Farm proposed 5 milliwatt solar energy facility as described in the special use permit application is not substantially in accord with the Prince Edward County Commission plan due to the fact that it fosters and/or promotes land development in agricultural areas and will have an impact to the adjacent roadway and nearby residents, and that the Planning Commission recommend denial of the special use permit request due to site selection as stands.
So we have on the table now a motion for the Green Bay project. I guess, do we have any discussion, or do we have a second to that?
Second to the.
Second, okay. Any other discussion? Okay, let's go
Just
around.
to be clear,
Deny.
that I heard you.
Deny,
yeah,
yes, we have-
that
we have-
you found that it is
Yeah.
not in
Yeah, it's not in
substantial
compliance,
accord
yeah,
with
yeah, not in
the
accord or
comprehensive plan.
compliance.
Better uses for that property.
Yeah. So we have a motion and a second to deny, and then we'll go through the voting then. Mr. Hogan?
Yes to deny.
Yes to deny. Mr. Gilliam?
Same.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Page?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Weiss?
Yes, to deny.
And Mr. Pringerman says yes to deny. The planning commission is denying this project moving forward at this time.
So this will also go to
This will also still go to the county board of supervisors
on April 8th.
on April 8th. But we are not recommending this project move forward to the county board of supervisors. With that in mind, I just want to thank everybody that came for those. We have a couple little things we always do at a board meeting. old business, new business, supervisor. You're all more than welcome to listen to some boring stuff. But I really want to thank everybody here for your input and support to the county. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll try to be brief, but I do have a lot to cover.
Okay, well then be brief.
All right. Review of supervisor actions, the, yep.
I'm sorry. I make a motion to listen to that.
I want to see this, how they measure runoff.
I can't figure out how you do
Looking
that.
at the project first.
You know yourself, if it's cut over land, of course, when trees gone, you don't get no runoff. After the trees gone, you get more. But when you go in there, blow those down, everything
Was it in their
Oh, I'm sure they do.
At least you don't have to come to the board. I was at home midnight the other night. I got five under the board. I got five under the board. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get to that. All right.
Okay.
Better
Everybody's
now?
quick
All right,
attention.
I'll be quick and brief. So.
Wait a minute, let
review
me
of-
put you on 3 minutes. Go
review
ahead.
of supervisor actions.
You got to be.
He's slowing me down, Chairman.
Got 3 minutes.
So the Lindsay Mulvey, that's the doggy daycare, that was approved. The geodesic domes.
Yes.
That was approved.
Okay.
The solar was denied 7-1.
Okay.
So
Gabriel Solar, yeah.
Gabriel Solar was denied. I don't know what's gonna happen with that one, but they can bring it back with changes. They can file an appeal. We'll see how that goes. Under, what kind of old business? We have, well, new business, actually. I'll skip past old business, go to new business.
Okay.
So, new business, Strata, Solar is having a community meeting at the Meharry Fire Department this coming Thursday. That is an application that's forthcoming to us. I did have email communication. That was Lewis Wilkinson's property. He had passed, he had signed his property up into a solar project, which was about roughly 2,000 acres. It was under panel, 610 acres of panels under the panel, actual panel acres. So that will and estate was probated, so that application will be coming soon after Thursday.
I'm not going to talk percentages at that.
So that community meeting, if anybody wants to come, will be at 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, open house style, on this Thursday at the Meharry Fire Department.
That's security coming?
It's up to, it's their meeting. I'm
That's
gonna be there as staff to answer process questions, but I'm gonna just answer citizens as they come up to me and have questions. So at the next board meeting, we'll have this, and then because we had 7 public hearings the other board meeting. Andy Ellington's project, that's under old business. Andy Ellington's project was passed off. He's gonna be the first item of business under land use at the April 8th. VDOT went back out, with the engineer, with Mr. Ellington, and with Scott, Frederick.
Yes.
The district manager, looked at that site. Chip Coleman, Maxey, the engineer for Mr. Ellington, designed a proposal for a full access on Pisgah Church Road. It failed. VDOT did not accept it. They will not accept that. Its intersection spacing's too close to the active intersection and active travel way of 460, so they're still gonna stay with a in only on 460 and a out left to go back to 460, and that's the design. I also do want to clarify one thing. Our tax maps were not correct. I mean, they represent what we think we know, but a survey is exact. So the survey site plan that property didn't do an L. So I do want to clarify, I had a couple extra owners that don't touch that parcel. One of those being assistant resident engineer and the reviewer, original reviewer, Mr. Brian Locker. He does not touch that property, so I do want to state that for the record. He did let me know I have to send him a letter, but anyway, I just want to make that clear. But that's going to the board with the original design that I know some folks in this room have an issue with. So that's going to be up to the board, and that's going to be the first item of business, be a rezoning and,
April 8th, right?
what?
April 8th.
April 8th. If y'all want to come and stay to midnight, come to April 8th, 'cause I got 5 public hearings. So we have a citing agreement to go along with these. So, last item, our next meeting, actually, I put this on here, it conflicts with a budget meeting. So I would have to communicate with y'all to set a date. As it stands right now, I do not have an application on my desk to consider, so we may not even have an April meeting.
That will take care if we get paid, right?
But if we do, it's not that night.
If you do, I'd have to reach back out, we have to check availability to this room, but right now, it would not be, so you can remove that date. But I'm thinking if somebody doesn't file something, and even if Strata, that's too big of an application for us to review in-house. It wouldn't come to y'all, if it was filed tomorrow, it can't be filed tomorrow, but if it was filed Friday, you wouldn't get that till at least May. So I just want to be, I've got one application for full transparency that I am expecting. That is the old gas station in Green Bay across the road from Dollar General to make a restaurant. That's been reviewed by VDOT. They've accepted the current entrances. He's going to file that here soon. He's putting a new roof on the building. He can shore that building up. That's all he's doing. We have issued a permit to put a new roof on the building. He's going to put an A roof on that building regardless. He wants to do that. But unless that comes in the next 13 days, or 10 work days, 10 business work days, I won't be able to advertise it for your April.
Some business in there, across from Dollar?
No, sir, Dollar General.
Next to the post office.
Yeah. Dollar General special use permit, that would be a restaurant by county code would be a special use permit only. So he would be coming with a special use permit, not changing it to commercial
In the city of Green Bay.
in the city of Green Bay. So that's what I got on the horizon right
I
now.
would have thought that.
That's all I got.
You must be a Green Bay resident.
I put that Dollar General there.
Yeah,
Talk me right on the hill.
City of Green Bay.
I'll go to number 11, meeting adjourned.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate y'all.